Welcome to CrikeyCast, a podcast where we rewatch the episodes of The Crocodile Hunter and break it down for you. And hopefully you love Steve Irwin as much as we do. Crikey! So this is part one of the pilot, which is a two-parter.
Yes.
So this might be a third or a fourth, but that's where we're starting.
Okay. A third or a fourth.
This might be 1/3 or 1/4 of the first episode, which is 2 parts.
Yes.
Is that too much math to start with?
Of the Crocodile Hunter.
Of the Crocodile Hunter, yes. So this is our pilot from watching the pilot.
Yes.
So, it's 1996.
Correct.
And the first episode begins with this classic intro, which is so 90s. It's very, very green. There's like not a lot of...
Yeah. It's also extremely pixelated because you have to watch it. It's a recording of a VHS tape that's been uploaded online. Because you basically can't find the pilot anywhere.
But in 1996 when we were watching it, it wasn't pixelated.
Yeah. So it is a little different.
But it is very green, and there's like a graphic and then a small window in which shots of animals are happening and Steve is talking over it, and it's very nostalgic to me.
Yes. And he says in it that they're at Queensland Reptile and Wildlife Park, which is different from what I remember, which is that it's the Australia Zoo. So I think this predates them either taking over the Australia Zoo or calling it the Australia Zoo. It's like extremely early days.
We'll find out. This might be what launched his career so that he could buy the Australia Zoo or become the main person. My favorite part is in the intro. His voiceover says, "Sometimes it's hard to run a wildlife park where everything wants to kill you."
Sets the tone for the whole show.
Great start to what this is and what we're watching. Got anything?
Got anything? No.
Okay.
So they start off with a bunch of video of him and voiceover, and he talks about he had 7 years experience doing this volunteer for like the Forest Service or whatever, catching crocs and bringing them to his reserve or whatever. And his dad did it growing up, and he called it a dying art, which I thought was kind of beautiful that he thinks it's like an art catching crocodiles.
Right. So it's Steve and his wife, Terri, and he gives us this background, which is that, yes, he learned how to capture and wrestle crocodiles from his dad, which is such a funny thing to be like, my father was also in this profession. It's like, just so not what we're used to.
I mean, I feel like if your dad does that, you kind of have to do it, you know? Yeah. It's one of those things.
Also, while he's saying, like, my dad used to catch crocs, there's like a slow motion shot of him taunting a crocodile, and it drags him into the water. So we're like watching him in a very dangerous situation immediately.
Shot.
Yeah. And
it's legit pixelated, just a single camera on him shot of dangerous shit happening, which is so funny.
But it wasn't pixelated back then.
We don't know that. We weren't there.
Whatever.
I have an important thing. Yeah. He gets pulled into, and then they kind of cut to a kangaroo pen, and they're giving a shot to a full-size male kangaroo, but it's him chasing it, trying to catch it, and then grabbing it by the tail, and then grabbing it by the leg and body slamming it to the ground while his wife comes in, and she goes, "It's going to burn a little bit," and sticks it with a syringe.
What I love is no warning whatsoever, and this 7-foot... maybe not that big. How big? Maybe it was like 5 feet. But this huge kangaroo comes ripping around the corner, and he goes running after it and grabs its tail. And I guess he was wrestling it to the ground to give it a shot or something. But like, they don't give you any idea that this is gonna happen. Tell you why. All of a sudden, they're like picking up a turtle, and then the next 5 seconds, he's wrestling a kangaroo down. And it's so random.
I even forgot they picked up a snapping turtle where he was like, "Don't put your hand too close; it'll snap your arm in half."
Yeah, and Terri is nervous, and I love how after he wrestles the kangaroo to the ground, he says to the camera, "I don't want to do that again."
Yeah.
So like he also has limits.
Yeah, and then he said afterwards, he's like, "I'd rather be dealing with crocodiles than kangaroos," which
which is also funny
I think because kangaroos are probably faster.
Well, he's the crocodile hunter. He would rather deal with what he knows. But I wrote down at this point where which it feels like at this point we're 5 minutes in. I think we're like 2 minutes in, but already so much has happened, and I'm so happy and overstimulated that after he grabs the kangaroo, I wrote down, I'm sold. Like, having not watched this in so long, I know by, like, at this point, whether it was 1996 or now, I'm like, I'm full in on this. Like, I want to watch this all the time. I'm sold.
It's such good TV. It's 100, like 10 out of 10. Can't beat it.
Also, Steve is so young at this point, and Terry as well, but like he looks to me, between the way his hair always sort of is, but especially right now, he looks like one of those like 90s wrestlers. He's got like sort of a mullet. He's got that little baby face.
Yeah.
And he's, nice and tan. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so then we get jolted into something else, which is...
What do we get?
Do you remember where it goes from there?
Well, if we go from after the kangaroo, am I even there? I have him talking about the difference between alligators and crocodiles.
Okay.
Is that where you're at?
Mm-hmm.
So he has 2 alligators there, which are like American alligators, and he goes through how alligators are slow and approachable and crocs are fast and scary, and it's basically just him walking around touching these huge alligators, which is pretty funny.
There are 3 alligators that he said he captured by jumping off a boat onto their backs.
Yeah.
Very casually. And he raised them himself and fed them by hand.
Yeah.
So.
He did say that all the crocs there were hand-fed, so when he goes into the enclosure, he was like, they just think of me as the one who feeds them food. And he's like, look at this one. It's not very dangerous. It was like a small one. And then it instantly opened its mouth and started chasing him around.
Yeah. I think his whole thing is he's teaching us about danger, but he also likes to go like, oh, they don't have a dangerous bone in their body. And then whatever animal he's dealing with strikes at him. And he goes like, oh, actually, you gotta be careful.
Yeah. That's so funny. I loved right after this, he took the camera person to 100-year-old crocodile called Mary, which was just like, it's hard to see because it's kind of pixelated, but just like this huge, really slow looking crocodile. And he said, I won't stir her up on account of she'll kill me. But it was pretty fun. It was like a funny little shot, and also crazy that she could be 100 years old. I wonder right now if she's still alive. That was 30 years ago.
Wow. I don't know. Huge crocodile, or was it an alligator? I
feel like he called her a crocodile.
Okay, but yes,
she was giving alligator vibes. She was kind of fat.
I feel like the emphasis on him showing us this huge animal and then going, I'm not gonna do anything to it because it'll kill me, was so underplayed that I was like, there's just this this air of death, imminent death or something the whole time for a show for children, but also knowing that he eventually dies. It was all a little confusing.
I know, a lot of foreshadowing in the first episode that like, this is dangerous, which is, I think, a recurring theme through all of it. One of the fun things about watching is like, everything's pretty, even trying to give a shot to a kangaroo, pretty dangerous.
Yeah. So we get Mary, and it's pretty quick. Next thing you know, Terry and Steve are going on a camping trip, or so it seems, with their dog Suey, and
they're going up to North Queensland to catch a large rogue croc that's been bothering people, I guess.
Yeah, they're going to save it, right?
Yeah.
So they can put it in their...
I will say one thing. He just casually dropped Billabong in here that there was like, he's like, they sometimes hang out in the Billabong, which I didn't know is a water feature, and he didn't really explain what the Billabong was, but I think after this I'm going to be looking it up to figure out.
Yeah.
And I will be dropping it regularly.
I bet that company Billabong is named after what a Billabong is.
It's got to be.
Yeah. Well. So there's like a shot of this tiny little truck with him and the dog and Terry, and they're like bumping through the outback, driving through streams and stuff, and then they get to Camp Chilli, which is basically a wide open field, which to me just screams snakes and danger and fire danger. It's just already alarming.
We don't get fire, but we do get snakes. And a lot of them. I think Camp Chilli, I wrote it down here, is a great name for a camp.
Amazing.
Yeah, I'm guessing people cooked a lot of chili there, and they were like, we need to name this place. Or maybe they had such good chili there when they were camping that they just started calling it Camp Chilli, and that became the name.
Whatever story floats your boat.
I don't know. I need, there's backstory there. There's gotta be. He said in this montage that because they're going to get this croc, and they're worried that like there's cattle ranchers up there and it'll eat their cows. But he said crocs don't come into swimming pools. You have to go into theirs. And was talking about how in like Australia where they're expanding, they're going into these territories where these crocs have been. And that's why they're having problems. Which is an interesting note on the like, he's very wildlife first and everything, I think. And from what I remember. Yeah,
this is definitely an educational show.
Yeah.
Scary, but educational. Again, there's like a fast cut, and out of nowhere, Steve is running through the dirt yelling about a black snake. And Terri is absolutely freaking. She is so scared. And Steve is yelling at the dog to get in the truck because there is a red-bellied black snake.
I don't know, like 200 feet long. How big is it?
I don't know. So Terri is freaking out, and we get the first time that he says the phrase Little Ripper, which I love, followed quickly by poised to strike, or poised ready to strike, which is also one of my favorite sayings. And
poised ready to strike.
Poised ready to strike. I am in. I'm just so happy at this point.
So I think it's funny too. They do a lot of voiceovers sometimes where it's like they're walking around being videoed, and they're doing the voiceover. This one is like live footage.
Yes,
and
there's panic.
It's high stress. There's no acting.
And the camera's pretty far away for a while because this snake is fast and what did he say? Like top 10 most venomous snakes in the world.
Yeah.
And then I feel like this is the first time we get a glimpse into them like as a couple, because Terri is nervous and she makes a joke, and Steve doesn't laugh, and I just go like, oh my god, they really are married. Like,
I didn't realize she wasn't Australian until I heard her being scared like an American. Yeah. And her voice, I was like, wait, she's not Australian right now.
Well, she's clearly something. Like, I know she has animal background. I don't remember if she's a vet or a vet tech or how she got into it, but she knows animals, but she doesn't do this high adrenaline animal catching, which is pretty funny. So
I like to imagine her as just a girl from the city who somehow ended up with this bushman, and now she's with this like very dangerous and aggressive black snake at Camp Chilli, and it's all crashing in on her.
Yeah, I love it too because I don't know. There's something about like her being American and him being Australian and the way his hair is, and also the way that I can't get into it. Wait, it's coming. There's more.
All right, well, while you're thinking of that.
No, I haven't, but there's a moment where it just comes to fruition.
Oh, yeah. It's important to note because, there's a few things that happens. He keeps asking her for a stick. She gives him a stick. He says he wants a more bushy stick. She says, is this bushy enough? And he goes, I can't look at you, mate. I'm looking at the snake.
Yes, again, another nice couple moment where she's trying to help, but he's a little frustrated.
Yeah, he's got a poisonous stick.
And then she asks him to explain why the bushy stick, and I feel like we get back into the educational where he's like, don't catch snakes, but if you're going to, here's how you should do it.
Yeah, grab him by the tail. He goes into like this specific snake, the black snake. If it bites you, the venom isn't going to kill you, but you're going to have to amputate wherever it bites, which is crazy. Yeah. It's also crazy that he's doing that on camera. He's got, like a 6-7 foot snake that wants to bite him, and if it does, he's going to have to get a part of his body amputated, and that it bites is crazy.
That's his whole thing.
Yeah.
So we then get another hard cut to them on a boat.
Yes. A very small boat, I'd say.
A sick boat. Honestly, I feel like it's a boat that you really, really want.
I do want that boat. I mean, he's got Terri, he's got Suey the dog, and him, and they're just cruising around the island. That's like the life I want. Being honest, not bad.
It looks fun.
It's 1996, dude.
So they get to another place. We don't know why. And within seconds, Steve is on the ground, deep in a hole, trying to grab the back legs of a sand goanna that is like another 6 feet. And he's all, if it turns around and bites my finger off, it'll go down to the bone. And he's deep in this hole and drags this thing out, and he's covered in dirt. And I just wrote down, do you think he stinks? Because...
Dude, he's got to stink. They've all got to stink. It's hot out there.
This is where I was like, this American woman ends up with this Australian man, and she likes animals, and so does he. But he is always covered in dirt or mud, and then I just was like, he's got to be the stinkiest guy ever.
Dude. And it's like, what, are you going to go shower in the river where it's full of crocodiles?
I think he does, because in the next shot he's always clean, so somehow he's cleaning himself off.
That's true. I will say, I didn't notice the word ripper until he pulled this goanna out, and he called her a ripper as well.
Ripper comes back.
Actually, it was a guy one. We figured that out in the next sequence, but I wrote that it's weird that this goanna is just letting him hold it like a rag doll. He's got, it's like 3 feet long. He's like holding it up and showing the belly to Terry and the camera, and they're like touching parts of it and like holding its toes.
Yeah.
And the thing's just letting it happen.
I mean, in a very honest way, they're both constantly fascinated by every animal that they see, which is very sweet and sort of rare, I feel like.
Yeah.
They end up finding the babies of a goanna nearby, which apparently this male goanna was going to go eat. And we spend a long time watching these babies hatch, which is disgusting to me.
Oh, I thought it was kind of beautiful.
Oh, there's like blood and gooey stuff. And Terry is so happy, and I thought it was gross, but we're getting a lot of Terry now. She's really getting in there. You can tell she's like... I think she's big on the reproductive side of animal.
Yeah. Well, it was cool. I don't know. I don't think Planet Earth didn't come around for like 15, 20 more years. But the footage they got is like a close-up of an egg, and you see, and they tell you about the little tooth that comes out and cuts the membrane, and then the little nose comes out. And they get such close-up footage of this that I don't know how like good footage it was for the time, but getting that in the wild is.
Do you think this was crazy. Like a groundbreaking shot?
Feels groundbreaking to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
So I thought it was gross.
You see these little baby boy. I thought it was cool. And then I thought the eggs were interesting. They went into so much education in this. But the eggs are like not hard. They're like kind of soft.
I don't know if we need to include all the education.
Okay. You can watch it for yourselves, I guess. But there's good info in there.
Unless you want to.
No, it's good. I'll also just go right by it. We'll let people go back.
It was a long time about eggs. I just don't know if we need to go into it.
It was great. It was so good. 8 to 10. I wrote down a lot of facts here.
No, you didn't.
Yes.
We'll share them.
That took its first breath, and they saw its eyes opening for the first time. And then I said the voiceover give and take is so good between Steve and Terry, because they are showing the footage, and it's them like live talking about it. And they do a really good give and take, which for a pilot episode, it's kind of, I don't know, back then, like editing was pretty basic, so I think they basically watched it and talked in microphones, and they were fucking killing it.
I'm glad you're impressed.
Oh yeah, well, good chemistry from the pilot, from the first half of the pilot.
There you go.
Yeah.
Again, we are taken back to the boat, and Steve is driving so fast, and Terry is getting smacked in the face by the trees, and Steve is not moving the boat. Which, again, I think is a great representation of them as a couple, or maybe all couples.
So, yeah.
And it is making me laugh very hard.
Now, they talk a lot about looking for slides. They break down what slides are, which is basically, you can just see where crocs have gone down the riverbank, and that's where they're looking so they can find the big croc they're looking for. it feels like like they caught the footage of them finding it.
It does
seem pretty sad.
Seem sad because at first I thought it was funny because Terry didn't know it was dead, but then Steve immediately goes over there and picks it up, which I was also like, ew, what are you doing? And he announces it has a bullet hole straight through its brain. Yeah. And there's no like music. This is not. Yeah. There's not like any sort of background mood being set, but you can feel the tone shift, and they're very sad because this is the crocodile they were coming to relocate, and it's now been shot in the head.
Yeah, and we go on like a pretty long sequence of him talking about how they've been looking for this croc for 3 months. Like, they've been up there. I don't know if it was one trip. It must have been multiple trips where they're going up on the weekend looking for it. But 3 months is a lot of time looking for one of these crocs and to find it dead. He says it's between 70 and 100 years old. Legit crazy.
Nuts.
And then he kind of just went into how some cowboy shot him when in reality, if they just would have let them find it, they would have relocated it to a different spot. So they didn't have to worry about it. And it's kind of like a very sad thing that they're probably still dealing with, but back then were of people just going out and trying to kill these crocs so that they wouldn't bother them anymore.
What do you think he means by cowboy?
I guess like Australian cowboys shooting a croc straight to the brain feels like cowboy stuff to me.
I don't know. I'm from a different part of the country where cowboys don't do that.
What do they do?
I mean, they don't shoot... Maybe they shoot horses in the head if they break their leg, but... I just needed clarification on a cowboy.
Cowboys, doing stuff they're not, they're bad boys.
Bad boys.
But in this case, really bad boys.
So for me, the tone picks up immediately when it goes to the next shot is Steve, and he's like hip deep in mud. Mm-hmm. And I am again dying because this man can't stay clean.
Yeah, he's dirty though.
Why is he hip deep? For all the danger out there, how does he just go? And now he's so deep in the mud, and I'm nervous, and he's looking for more slides, and I was losing it. I couldn't stop laughing.
It feels so dangerous to me to be in the middle of the bush in Australia, completely in the mud, where a crocodile clearly just was.
Exactly.
Showing it. And he's jacked to the tits. He couldn't be more excited showing and explaining that this is the tail mark and this is the scales on the bottom of the belly.
They're so sad, and then they find a slide, and they're so happy.
Oh, yeah. I could see he's been out there for 3 months. They just found a dead one, and he finds like an active one, and he is stoked. Yeah.
But only for mere moments, because they then find a nest of crocodile babies, and it has been ravaged and pillaged by pigs.
I did not expect pigs to make a cameo in this episode.
Me either, but it does make sense because when we used to live in Texas, people shot pigs all the time, wild pigs, because they're really invasive. And I don't know, this just confirmed it that pigs are bad. Not nice pink pigs that we eat and hang out with.
I don't know. We didn't see a picture.
That's true. We don't know what kind of pig.
It could be one of the 3 little pigs. I honestly fuck pigs after this episode. Okay. I'm like, I don't know. It ravaged. He said it could have been 60 eggs in there, and this thing just went to town, and they were like showing dead baby crocs,
right?
Which is crazy.
So they show you the nest, and there's all these broken eggshells and these dead little crocodiles, and it's really, really sad. And Terry says something like, "Oh my gosh, Steve, what do you think? There could be like 50 to 60 eggs in here." And he goes, "No. 75 to 80. And again, I get this lovely glimpse of them as a couple and him immediately correcting her. Or, he could be right, but I just love these little moments.
But then we have she finds an alive baby at the bottom while Terry's digging through. She finds like a 6-inch baby alligator, pulls it out, and then they keep digging. They end up getting 4 baby ones out, which was awesome.
Yeah, again, no music tone to show that this happy moment happened, but they're very stoked. She's handing Steve the babies, and he's constantly reminding her to keep looking very thoroughly for more, and they find 4 in total and release them into the water.
Yeah, felt like a special moment. Felt like...
super cool. I mean, I just thought that we found a dead nest of crocodiles. I didn't think that there would be 4 live ones underneath.
Yeah.
So that was sweet.
It was sweet, and kind of poetic, It's like... They find a dead 70-year-old croc, and then they're able to dig out 4 brand new babies. It's like a little circle of life moment.
They then go back to camp. We don't get much of why or what time it is or anything, but it is now nighttime. They have a fire going. Camp Chilli seems chill, and out of nowhere we get I can't stress enough, because TV is not like this anymore, these random jump cuts to things, and it just shows Steve probably 40 feet up in a tree holding a little possum, and he is again so excited.
Oh yeah.
There's like a shitty handheld camera filming him with a crappy light.
They called it the possum cam. They gave him a mini camera. He climbed up in a tree, and he grabs a video of a possum with its baby on its back, which is incredible.
And I want to know what it's like being Terri, dating a man who's this energetic, this in love with animals, and is like constantly doing something crazy. Like, can you imagine if you're like, okay, long day, we looked for crocs, we found some dead ones, super sad, we're gonna have dinner, and then you look over and your husband's in a tree holding a possum, and he's like, check this out. Like, it's just, dude, chill. Undiagnosed ADD.
Yeah, my guy gets jacked up about animals. And I love it.
Amazing. So solid start. I'm very happy. These people are near and dear to my heart. Always have been, still are, reconfirmed.
Yeah. And that is only 36 minutes into an hour and 20-minute long double pilot.
How many animals are we going to see?
I
mean, this is crazy.
Yeah. We didn't even mention they found a python right after that. And they let it go through Terri's hair.
Yep, Terri holding a python. Pythons are not venomous. They squeeze their prey to death, so Terri's very happy. She's letting it lick her face, and then it's winding itself through her hair. And I didn't write it down because again, no thanks. Not interested, hard to watch for me.
Well, I will add an Eric factoid in here that you can sometimes, they said a lot of pythons get killed because they think they're venomous, but they have wider bodies and a distinct head shape. So there's really no reason to kill a python because it's not venomous. It's not going to kill you like that. They're friendly. And by
an Eric, what'd you call it?
An Eric fact?
Fact, you mean something you learned from watching this show?
Yeah, but you said you don't want to go through the facts. So if I give it out here, it's a fact. I borrow. A great artist borrow. Great artist steal.
Now you're just quoting a show that we've been watching. All right, well, we have another half of this to go through. So
yes, thank you for joining us.
See you later, little rippers.
Well, it's a good name for the show.
Ooh.